Anthony, I am so excited to have a conversation with you today.
I'm excited to talk to you too. Let's do this. We're gonna give confessions. I feel like this, like, what was that, Dear Abby letters?
Yeah, that's totally right. People ask me, because the podcast is called Confessions from the Sidelines. But what I find is we learn so many interesting facts and trivia from all of these student athletes, coaches. I mean, it's really been pretty cool to talk about all the things that kind of go into becoming a college athlete.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, if you can see in the corner, I got my helmet over here somewhere
I
from
see
when I
that.
played.
I have one too, but
I know.
I never wore it. I was just gifted it. So
There
yeah, so let's start off with that. Tell us a little bit about, your journey to playing at Oregon, because it wasn't really an easy one to get there.
No, they never are. All right. The best ones never are, but I don't
Right.
think anybody gets a chance to play at that level. It was ever any easy. But no, I mean, from childhood, I guess growing up, I wasn't statistically supposed to get there. I'd
Mhm.
given away at 3 years old in a foster care system and had a whole lot of weird things happen and heinous things. And then ended up in an all white family. And I was adopted 11 years later at the age of 14. So football, I didn't even get to play till I was 14.
Wow.
So I wasn't even of the caliber to do so. Kind of navigated the ups and downs of who I am and where it fits. And in sports, actually, for a little bit, got taken off the table because I wasn't good at the game.
Mm.
And then eventually had this deep commitment to figure out how I could get better and put the work in. And eventually it panned out and turned into a better athlete. And then I had the opportunity. I didn't even like look at college till like my senior year,
Yeah.
when teams started coming around saying I would like to possibly have this kid, come play for us. And now I'm getting letters from like every Division I school you can imagine. And it was very interesting because my family, no athletes in my family but me. Like,
Right.
and not only that, but like I'm a professional athlete too. Like I got to the level of being a pro later on. It's like no athletes, and like, one of my brothers is NFL. Like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's something a lot of students, they hear now that they're like, oh, I need to make a commitment. I need to be committed by my sophomore year. I've got to do all this. But in
No,
reality, that's not the case.
no, you just got to play because the thing is, it's one of the sports is interesting. If you're good, you'll play. That's it.
Right.
If you produce, you'll stay. So the idea should be focused on how can I get really, really good. Yeah, you want to have relationships and conversations, but if you're good, man, the teams will come find you. And if you're not as good as the rest of them, go find the teams. And you
That's
got to be
right.
committed. Like, nah, I mean, and unfortunately, even a commitment doesn't mean much because if they're also recruiting 5 other guys and you're committed and they get the guy they wanted, like you don't have a scholarship now, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of dynamics that play into that world. But my journey up to college, actually, at one point, I had committed to Washington State.
Oh,
That was where I
wow.
was going to go. I took a trip to Washington State. Coach Ball committed there. Mike Price was the coach at the time. I was like, I'm here. And then Oregon, I called all the schools, Nebraska, Michigan. I was like, I'm not taking trips. I'm going to Wazoo. The coach at Oregon, Nick Aliotti to be specific, would not stop calling me and recruiting me.
Ah.
Hey, you got to come here. You got to go to Oregon. You can't go to the Wazoo State, And so eventually I was like, whatever, I'll go take a trip to Oregon. So I took a trip to Oregon and loved it. And then
Yeah.
decommitted from Washington State, committed to Oregon. And obviously the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. But, I think one of the things too that students, they often forget is that when you're thinking of playing at this Division I level or even any type of college sport, academics are actually part of that whole story to get you
Yeah.
there.
I'll have to be. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I was horrible at academics, to be quite honest. I don't think I ever had above a 3.0. And the thing is, here's the thing. I am not a stupid human. Well,
Mm.
I'm an incredibly intelligent, weird, like I know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. It's very odd, but we grew up in a household where academics were not a priority or a focal
Mhm.
point. But like, to be honest, my wife now, when we were in high school, we got together like 16. And when college became a reality and like I had no grades, she actually would help me with my homework every night. And it wasn't that she would help me like learn it, but like force me to sit down and do the homework. Like, all
Oh,
right, I'll do
yeah.
the homework, right? But I'm able in college. I think I might have missed 2 classes all of college.
Wow.
And I never was a guy that got like above a 3.0. I wasn't big on doing great in homework, but you take me to class. If I just sat in class,
Mm.
I just had to sit there. I would get B's and C's like easy, almost like
Yeah.
A's. And
Yeah.
stuff I liked, I'd get an A. Like chemistry, I'm phenomenal. Weirdly, it's stoichiometry. I got an A in stats later on. So all my physiology, I had a whole bunch of like cadaver labs I was doing because I got my degrees in kinesiology.
Yeah.
I I would actually the TA would come to me and ask me questions about the cadaver, what nerve was which, because I just knew it. So like
Wow.
if I wanted to know it, I'm good. Outside of that, I just didn't really care. But academics, without being dialed sports wise, you have no opportunity
That's
to
right.
even go play. So it's like
Mhm.
where most guys listen to this weird story. I had a teammate in high school one time. I came back from college, younger guy, and he goes, "Hey, I enrolled at LMC, which is this college nearby." He goes, "Then what I did once I got on the football team, I dropped all my classes so I could focus on football." I was like, "What did you do?"
Yeah,
Like,
like that.
what?
Like, and
What?
that's like, yeah, you can. And I think for like our
No,
parents and students to know that is like, that's not even possible at like,
impossible. I was like, "How
right,
you gonna be on the team? You won't even make. You can't even be on the team at the end of the season. And what are you trying? I'm trying to go to college. You're gonna go to college and not have any classes? Oh, that's
that's
not gonna
right.
work, my man." And he
That
figured
is,
it out though. But it was
yeah.
hilarious. He was dead serious, and I was like, "You better get that stuff taken care of." And he ended up going and playing another level, Division 2, I want to say.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of times parents are just, they're lost at like, what are all these things? And, I know in the University of Oregon, you had a great support system in your academic advisors in that office.
Yes, we did. We had Yuri Farkas. We had Steve Stolp. Actually, I just connected with Steve a little bit ago for no random reason at all. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is very much so a thing where like you got the support you need. Because my son, like he's a 4.2 kid right now, and he needs that guidance, right? I
Right.
don't I don't think in college it's about whether or not you can. It's just that you're going from an environment where mom and dad were like, "Hey, get your homework done. Hey, get your
That's so
homework done."
right. Yep.
Now it's like, "Hey, wanna come hang out at the party? Wanna go get some pizza? Wanna go," like, and it's like you have to really be an adult and buckle down and go, "No, I have homework to do right now, and mom and dad aren't babysitting me."
That's right. That's right. And you mentioned about getting this opportunity to play in the NFL. And, as I think about your story, and I would love for you to share a little bit about that, but you hit some major setbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mean, like, which parts of the story? There's a whole lot of weird setbacks. You mean the
Right.
NFL? The NFL
Yeah.
journey?
Yeah. Like as you think about your NFL journey, I mean,
Yeah.
you had this dream of like, I'm going to play in the league for, 10, 15 years.
Oh, yeah, that's always the idea.
And, a few months later,
Yeah. Well, life is what happens between your plans. So first off, to even get to that moment, whenever I was considering of playing for a long time. So I obviously got in when I was a freshman. I got out, sorry, after my senior year, rookie, and I went to the Buccaneers, and I get cut in like the last cuts. And then you go home and figure out what do you do, and then you're bouncing around. It's the workout train. You're at a workout every single week for week after week. I think that year I might have done like 7 or 8 workouts, and then
oh,
finally
wow.
got week 13 of 2006. Yeah, '06, week 13, I got picked up by the Redskins. So it's now the Washington football team. And I got brought in. I was there over the last 3 games, off season, and the next year made it through. I was doing my thing, got past preseason, got to the first game of the season, and then got cut after the first game because 5 guys got hurt and I got to go home. And so I'm at the house, like, all right, well, I got no job again. And then I go home and trying to figure out how to get back in a squad, and a really difficult, weird situation of where I finally got signed by the Steelers, but got signed by the Steelers. And then what I did is I've been doing classes the whole time in between. Like I had not graduated yet because when I went
Right.
to college, I didn't redshirt. So I end up this my third year in the NFL, and all my buddies in the off season, like it's like between OTAs and training camp, all the teammates they're out in Jamaica taking trips, trying to like stay in shape, but preparing for the long football season ahead.
Mhm.
Well, I came home and I was doing college stats classes and actually doing labs for chemistry and stuff because I wanted to get my degree. So I graduated. I want to say it was like July 27th, something like that. It was something weird, like July 27th, graduated, final class turned in, sent my transcripts to Oregon. I got my degree, right?
Yeah.
And then we check in for camp. And he had like a week of training camp, which was long and heavy and arduous, right? And August 8th, 2008, the first preseason game, I turned my shoulder. So we're talking like a week and a half or so after I'd graduated. And now it's like, all right, I got to go home. I didn't know at the time my career was done, but my season's done because the shoulder's
Mhm.
jacked up. And so I'm assuming that's it. But that ended up being a career over. It's fast. It happens really, really, really
Yeah.
quickly. And it's more than you can understand in one moment in time.
Well, and so what were you thinking at that moment of like, gosh, now I have to figure out my life. This is not the plan I have. I've got to go down this road. Do you ever feeling defeated or just like
Of course.
not good enough in that moment?
All the time, man. That's the natural thing.
Yeah.
We have what's called these massive identity crises, right? Because we don't know
Yep.
who we are without this game. I've been doing this thing, and it doesn't always have to be sports. Like it could be anything you've given a certain amount of energy to that you've been doing for a long time that
Right.
you no longer can do. So whether it's a parent who's been given energy to taking their kids to and from sports, and then now the kids are off into college, empty nest. the military, losing a job or even changing jobs proactively. You're no longer doing that job. There's a sense of like, who am I without that thing I've done?
Mhm.
And for sports, it's even worse because it's all I am,
Right.
and so there's definitively those moments in time and like, what worth do I even bring to the world if I can't,
Mm.
I can't even do this thing. Unless I get paid to tackle somebody, I must be not be worth very much to the world. And it was a long journey to find my own personal sense of like strength and we'll call like personal wealth as a human. In a way that I tell a metaphor of it, it's kind of like sports makes you feel like, it's the fruit of your labor. You
Mm.
feel like this piece of fruit, and then this fruit that's your sport, like you fall off the tree, you roll around, you hit the ground. No, and it can last for a little bit. Like after you leave the game, you got your little bit of your swag, confidence still.
Right.
Because I used to play, I was just with the Steelers like 3 months ago, but after a while, man, you start feeling like that rotten piece of fruit.
Yeah.
Just right. And so for a lot of years, I had issues like my marriage fell apart. I
Mm.
wasn't a present father. I got out of shape, right? And when I realized it's because whenever we go into life and we think we are the fruit, we mess up because we've never been the fruit. We have always been the tree.
Mm.
The tree created this amazing fruit, right? And
Yeah.
when you only focus on that fruit, well, now you don't prune the branches, you don't water the tree, you don't take care of the sunlight, so the
Right.
rest of the fruit dies. So
Yeah.
yeah, when football died, everything else was inevitably going to go falling off the tree and dying. And so when I went back and took care of the tree, I was like, oh, okay, I can produce sweeter and more abundant fruit in my life if I take care of this because the tree created football in the first place.
That's right.
It can create a different profession, a different marriage, a
Mhm.
different family, different health. It can do all that, but only if you take care of it.
Ah, wow, my brain is just like blowing up right now because thinking of how like that tree is truly the basis of who you are and knowing like all these branches and all this fruit and all these things that are happening, you really took time to reflect and go, okay, how can I move forward in this? What's my next step?
Yeah.
And, walk me through a little bit of that mindset shift because
Mhm.
you're talking a little bit about this identity and I can imagine that some of our listeners are really feeling this and like this really hit home to them.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just a mindset thing. The funny thing is mindset is actually an encapsulated, like, it's part of your identity.
Mm.
Like whenever we played sports and we were balling, we didn't go in the mirror and go, "You got a great mindset." It
Right.
wasn't, just like it's like you're dope. You got this. You can do it right.
Yeah.
You as a collective whole, right? Everybody else on the outside looking in, their language is, "Oh, they got a great mindset." So when you're living in it, it's just part of who you are, right?
Right.
The reality is it's a version of your identity. And
Mm.
so the work I do is in identity. And it's not
Yeah.
this like, understand who you go sit by the banyan tree and sing hymns and figure out your identity. We're not talking about that kind of area. I'm talking about how your identity shows up. Because
Right.
when you were an athlete, you showed up in all collective aspects as that person, right?
Hmm.
And whenever you get to the realization of is anything in life, it's still based on identity, man, you can understand like that if you can tweak it and play with it and understand how to form it, shift it, you can create anything you want. And so what I do is I go back to the root and go, okay, how did you craft the identity you have now, you're living
Yeah.
with right now? Where are its limitations? And then what shifts must you make to be able to have what you want to have in life because you become that person? And I call it, you'll get this, it's being in the zone.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's like, and people think you're only in the zone, like you get in the zone for a game. Like there are seasons where I've been in the zone, like back to back years. I'm like, I'm in the zone, I'm flowing. It's just everything. I have off days, but even
Yeah.
in the off day, I snack back. So there's that zone. And I think what happens when we leave sports, we lose that zone identity or the ability to shift into it. And when you can understand how to shift into that version of your identity again in a different area, right? To
Mhm.
take care of that tree, man, you start producing at levels that don't make sense because here's the truth. The intangibles that we got from playing sports, the average human will never have.
Mm.
But in the skill sets they have, we can learn. So
Yeah.
you take me and you give me any other human's skill sets, I will outdo them. Not because I've done it longer, but because I know me and I know how to operate and function in the zone way more than they can. Or the intangibles of like communication, understanding when someone gives me feedback, it's not an attacking of my person, it's attacking of how I did that thing. I am not
Mhm.
the way I did that thing. But little things people don't understand, man. Sports, if you can tap back into those versions of who you were then and pull them forward, man, and create that new like zone identity, you can do ridiculous cool things.
Wow, that is so powerful, thinking of our student athletes and those that are listening, or maybe former student athletes. We always talk about those being transferable skills. And that's exactly what you're saying, is
Yeah.
that all of these skills that our student athletes have really move them to the next level.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's discipline and there's teamwork. There's all these things that you get just by being on a team.
100%. And people leave the game and they think, "Oh, I'm of no value because I'm not scoring baskets or, what." But it's like, "No, man, you don't even realize it's like all your value that you have allowed you to go do that well." So if
Right.
you allow it to go apply somewhere else, you'll outdo people. Like it's creepy when I work with athletes. I know they're an athlete because there's certain, like, I'll bring clients on. I'm like, "Hey, here's week 1 homework to do," right? Because in our coaching programs, we have that. And there'll be people that show up who've done the first 2 weeks of homework, and some that show up and like, I didn't even log in yet. And to a T, I'm like, this person didn't play sports growing up.
Right.
Like, I just know it. Because if your coach said, "Hey, get this done beforehand," there's no way I'm showing up. And it's not even because I'm scared of the coach. It's a personal integrity kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's
That's that
who I
right.
am to get things done. So when it's who you are to get things done and you apply that to anything else, you're good. But the problem is most people think, well, I'm not that good. I'm not playing a sport anymore. I not, and they defeat themselves before they even get into the game.
And so, are some of these things that you experienced, is that what led you to write Identity Shift?
Well, to be honest, it ended in a couple places. So part of it, yes, part of it, no. The Identity Shift book was not supposed to be written at the time it was. It's now written, but it was a concept that I've been guiding people through as a coaching program for years. And it was more of just me unpacking not just the sports side, but also all my life side, and then understanding the science behind all of it. And then someone introduced me to somebody who was like, "I'm a publisher." I was like, "Well, I got this book I've been kind of ticking away at." And he's like, "Dude, let's write this book." So yeah, I wrote the book, and the book it's the kind of the unpacking of everything we're talking about in a really simple way. I wanted my 16-year-old son to be able to pick it up and understand the concepts of it. And then also it goes through, like, the second part of the book is like the structural ways that you can think through how to craft, and I say architect, and then activate this
Mhm.
identity into the world. I call it your ideal identity. And when you can do that, man, you can not only like preemptively look at the things you want to put into your life in a way that makes sense, but you also start to see how you've already become who you are.
Mm.
Like, you as a human, you start making sense of, oh, that's why I do this, how I show up. This is what, and it's way more clarifying and powerful. And then you go, okay, cool. So if I did that to create this person, man, if I do this, I can create that person. Let me go figure out how to do that. And then the book talks about how to build those things and create those things in your life. But the leading up to it wasn't something where I was like, I got to get this book to the world. It was like, I have a book that will get to the world, and someone just kind of lit the fire underneath it.
That in itself is someone also seeing the potential that you have.
Mm.
And I think a lot of times our student athletes, they listen to their coaches, they hear their parents, but they don't see the potential in themselves.
Yeah, they don't. No,
And
it's weird.
so, well, and with this book, having just tangible things that students can really take away from it. It's like you're saying, like you even want your 16-year-old son to be able to use this book and take his personal self to the next level. I'm
Yeah,
thinking of all of our high school athletes who are looking beyond the horizon, like what's next? How can I get there? Would
yeah.
this be something that they would be really be able to dive
1,000%.
into?
Yeah, 100%. Because it's designed in a way for you to grasp how to craft the next level of your life based on becoming the person that can lead into that. Because here's the thing, we will sit in these moments and think, no, I got to get all the information. I got to get all the insights, all this stuff, right? And part of having the insight is good. It makes you feel better. But to be quite honest, the people who have the insight didn't start with it. They went and did the
No.
thing and figured it out, right? And they came
Mhm.
back and said, here's a book. And so what I look at with the way that we operate as humans is I get to these moments that we can all attest to we've shown up in. It's the moment where you know what you're supposed to do, but you make an excuse of like, I'm tired, I'm busy, I didn't get this done, I had the bad day, whatever, I didn't eat breakfast. You make these things up. And then what happens is, well, you don't do that thing. And I ask people this question. I say, okay, what are your dreams? What do you want? And they'll list off things. Okay. The person who has all the things that you just listed that you want, would they make the excuse you just made?
Mm.
Or how would they handle the situation? And it
Yeah.
makes you go, oh, yeah, you're right. Right. So when you get that simple logic understanding, you realize it's not what you know, but it's who you are with what you know. So this book shows you how to craft and become that who you are so you can have whatever you want to have in life, no matter where you're starting from, because it's human. It's not some like you have to have had kids first, or like it's a
Hmm.
human base. When you understand the human base of how you operate, it's a game changer.
Wow. And I can envision just the power of this book and the tangible things to take away that students can really put into action and say, and hearing that question about, okay, this person has this, or, maybe the student athlete has taken this to the next level. And then the kid saying, oh, but here's my excuse for it. We
Mhm.
know that other student didn't make those excuses.
No, they didn't make the excuse, and they think, well, they're better than me. Like, no, it just wasn't who they already even consider making the excuse.
Right.
Right. Because when I look at things and I don't make the excuse, people go, why didn't you have that stop you? And I'm like, I didn't even consider that thought you just did. I don't even, that didn't cross my mind. It's not who I am to have had it cross my mind. It's not good, better. It's just different. And that is something we can all build. You can build that trait to where you move in just a different way. Like you're playing the game of life at a different tick because you're not playing with the same hindrances of everybody else. Think when we play as athletes, you can play against somebody and you can know when you smell that blood. Like you
Hmm.
can, I can feel on you when you want to shut down, when you get tired. Like I'm like, yeah, I got this is me right now. Right, this is my
Right.
time. Time. But and so the thing is, those people they don't know that they're giving off that emotion. They don't even know they're doing it. They're just doing it. I'm like, I see it. So when you understand it to get to that level, you start living life that way. I live life in a way where I walk around and half the time I'm like, yeah, I see you. I see you. Now it's my time to shine. I see you getting
Hmm.
tired, slowing
Yeah.
down, and they don't even notice, right? So that's what this thing does, man. It shows you how the inner workings kind of create that persona for yourself.
Wow. So where, for our listeners, where could they pick up this book?
Easy. If you go to identityshiftbook.com, and if you guys use the code CFTS, Confessions from the Sidelines, CFTS, what happens is I'm going to give away 10 signed books. I'll send them out. So those who go, the first 10 that go, will get a signed book, and then everybody will get the free audiobook. So if they're like, I don't want to, buy the book, get the free audiobook. You'll get the workbook, which comes along with actually kind of the books. You can kind of do the work inside of it, we'll call
Yeah.
it. They'll also get a digital version of it as well. So if they just go there and go through the process of putting that code in after they've got the book, they'll get an opportunity to win another copy for free signed by me. If not, they're at least going to get the audiobook and all the cool things. So
Oh, that's so amazing. And we'll be sure to include all those links and the code in the show notes so that everybody can just hop right there and grab it. Because I know this is definitely going to be life transforming for a lot of our
yeah,
listeners.
it's a big one. It's gonna be fun, man. I'm excited to get it out. Again, it was one of those things. I'm like, I'm gonna get this thing out, and then like it wasn't supposed to happen. Now it is happening. But I think it's a great time for it. I think with
Mhm.
the world and people trying to figure out how do I fit in this new dynamic, it
Yep.
was a great time to write the book and get it out.
Oh, that's so awesome. And you just mentioned, podcast is called Confessions from the Sidelines. So I
Mhm.
always ask our guests as they're on, what is your favorite memory of standing on the sidelines?
Standing on the sidelines, it was Kevin Mini Mitch in the middle of a game. I was like a freshman, and I don't know why this started out, but like in the middle of the game, he was like, hey, everybody make a circle. And then like he peed in a cup. Like it was stupid. It's a dumb one that came to my head just now. It's like the game got won, but it was just like this kind of weird, like that's how we just do weird things, man. You just in the stadium of 60,000 people, he's got a collective group of guys all like huddled in a circle watching him pee on the sideline because he needed to. That's just a dumb one, but that's getting in my brain.
And honestly, the people probably at the game were thinking, gosh, what are they planning? What's this secret thing that they
Yeah,
have going
huddle.
on?
Like, don't pee on my shoes, bro. Like that's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure chatting with you. And again, we're going to make sure that we post all those links about Identity Shift, the book, so that you can grab that and start making those life transforming changes today.